Hi everyone, welcome to this chestnut fur tutorial. This one is basically we're going to be focusing in on the colours, the values, and of course the texture of the fur in this mini, well, it's sort of a mini tutorial, but it's in-depth, it's real time. So first thing I needed to do was I zoomed in all over on this dog. This dog is a perfect example of chestnut fur. It's a beautiful setter. I looked at different areas. The ear is lovely, but it's more golden, obviously, is where the light is hitting it. It's a much softer area. Same with over the chest here. The body fur is stunning, but of course it's out of focus. So the area that I've come in on, because the first one I wanted to do was long wavy fur, and here, this area here had a beautiful curl of the light hitting it. Lots of dark shadow, so lots of lovely tonal values, and a couple of different fur textures. So I also, for another video, we're going to do short shiny fur, so I've zoomed in on part of the face as well. So if I just show you the actual area that I've zoomed in on, so there you can see the curl, you can see the shadow. So I flick back, it's this area just here that we're doing. Beautiful. It's where the fur almost changes direction down that front bib. So that's the area we're going to be using. Just to show you, that's the area I've zoomed in on the face for the short shiny fur study. So going through my pencils, you'll see which ones I use, and I'm actually not sticking to just Polychromos on this one, but if you need to use a brand that I haven't got, just grab all your reds, your browns, your dark purpley blues. I've even got in here, if I talk Polychromos colours, I've got a magenta in here, I've got a blue violet. I've actually picked up a Prismacolor because I've got a new favourite pencil in that range, which I don't normally use. A black cherry, a cerise noir. So I've got a warm grey 3, I think I picked up. Touch of cream from a Pablo. There's 2 or 3 Pablos in here. The burnt sienna, hazel, of course the russet. But it is influenced as well, as you'll see in the first part of the video, by the colour paper that I choose to use as well, and how each colour goes down on that paper. So there's the crop, that's where I got it from, and we shall move on now to actually getting this image onto our pastel mats and getting going on our little fur study. Okay, so I've shown you the actual colour choice. Next we're going to just look at what colour base I'm going to use. So for this one I'm going to use the Sienna pastel mat, which has got a lovely orangey base to it, which is coming through obviously in some of the undertones of the chestnut fur. So I'm working from a printout, and because it's small, I don't want to be zooming in, I just want to be looking at the colours, the tones, the values. So I've printed off onto some quality photo paper, just to transfer a little bit of a line drawing. We're not really going to transfer much. I've just printed onto some cheap copier paper. I'm going to just tape that down. Actually, I don't need to tape it down. I've got my little I'm working on my visual edge board, which is also a magnetic board, so I can go in and anchor it down with these little mini magnets. So I'm just going to zoom in first of all, make sure I've got everything lined up. I think that should give us a nice good placement for the camera. Yep, just anchor that one down. I'm just going to transfer a few marks across, get our little layout done. Using the stylus again, some people call this an embossing tool. It's not an embossing tool, it's a debossing tool. Embossing is where you raise the surface, debossing is where you press into the surface. So all I'm going to do, keep my reference photo off to one side as well. So I've got this just over to the one side, the quality one. And all I want to do is just come in and mark in some of the basic shapes. So we're just going to come in here, mark in some of the edges. I'm just impressing these through. And it doesn't. This isn't really about accuracy of placement of lines. We're not creating a full tutorial of the dog. This is more about technique, colour matching, colour blending, getting your depth of your values, so your nice dark shadows. And another video that I'm going to be doing over the next few weeks is, well, there's a couple. One's going to show you other ways of picking your colours. That is, I do mine by eye, obviously, but I'm going to show you a couple of different ways that you can colour select. I'm trying to say to people now, don't use these apps, because I haven't used them myself, but I seem to be getting a lot of people getting in touch with me saying that they're really struggling after having used the colour pick apps, so like Arty, I think there is something called Colour Picker. I don't know them, I don't use them, and like I say, from what I've heard from students, I'm not even advising that you do, because one, if you rely on a tool like that from the outset, your brain is not, it's going to be lazy unless you start training your eye and your brain. You're not going to start to see those colours naturally. Well, some of you might not, but I've just seen other people as well. They get told, mix this colour with this colour and you'll get that colour, and it's not working out like that, because it depends on, it doesn't take into consideration all of the variations of support, colour support. Like here we're using that sienna colour, and also different pencils, different pencil colours and shades as well. They just, different brands rather. So I'm recommending, don't use them. Try, even if you're just putting your pencils up against your reference image, so like, you know, you're looking at this and your eyes do start to see more colours, so you know, instantly I can see in here there's a lovely hint of this lovely magenta running down through some of these. Just put your pencils up against the actual photo. So I'll show you my colour selection, my pencil selection. There are a lot of ones that we discussed at the beginning of the video that I could see in the actual reference image itself. The printout, remember, I've got this printout, is going to look slightly different than the reference image on my screen, on your screen, so even just use my materials list as a guide. If you see other colours, if yours comes out more reddish, more orangish, more pinkish, go with the colours that you can see. If you feel like, you know, you go, oh, I don't like the fact that she's used a russet there, I see more of a kaput mortem, go with what your gut and your eye is telling you, because that is the image that you are seeing, and that's how your eyes are translating that image to your brain. Okay, so I've just marked in a few lines. I just want to mark in as well. I might use tape to tape this off. Just going to mark in the outside edge. So I'm just going to do it lightly here. This is literally so, pretty much so we've got a border to draw up to. I might, let's say, just tape this off. Last thing you want to do is be spilling out over the edge unwittingly and wasting time on an area that's not even in our drawing reference area. So I've just marked out that square. It's quite a biggish square actually. Well, it's I had to measure it. It should have been 3 inch by 3 inch, but I think it's actually a tiny bit bigger that we're drawing at. I will double check and I will put the measurements in the description. So let me just zoom out again first of all. I want to show you the pencil selections that I've got here. So I've got some, and you'll be surprised at where I've actually pulled one of these pencils from, but it's a pencil I discovered lately, and I've also looked it up and it has got a Lightfast 1 excellent rating, and it's a Prismacolor. I've actually got a Prismacolor in here, and it's the 1078 Black Cherry. Absolutely love it, and I so can see it. I used it on my Fox, or rather I'm using it on the new Fox on the suede matte. So I've got that. If you want to mix it, I'm looking at something like possibly dark indigo. You have to probably mix 3 colours with maybe you could put mortem, touch of magenta, maybe a bit of mauve in there as well. You might have to just have a play mixing those, but I'm going for that beautiful black cherry. I've got some definites in here I'm going to use, and I've probably got some that I'm not going to use. I've grabbed that lovely Ruby Earth I liked from the Derwent Lightfast. I have got their blue violet in here as well, but I've also got my dark indigo from the Polychromos range, because I do love that one. I've got the blue violet there from the Polychromos range, but I usually use the mauve. I might have to dig my mauve out. I quite like the look of the blue violet in the actual reference though. I've got a couple of greys, ash grey, and I've got a light beige from my Pablos range. I've also got a few other Pablos here. I've got the gorgeous russet, which again you've got same in your Caran d'Ache luminance as well with that one. I've also got their burnt sienna, sorry, their sienna. And which one is that one? I think it's just... that is the burnt sienna, and also that's the russet. I've just got a spare new russet there as well, just a nice shiny one. And then I've got my lovely cinnamon for glazing with from the Polychromos range. I have pulled in the Venetian red, but that's not got a great lightfast rating, just for you to be aware of. Light flesh I might use on my highlights, and I've got the cream from the Pablos. But again, if you've only got these in a Polychromos range or Pablos range, whichever, just look for the ones that match the best. I've got Caput Mortem Violet from Polychromos. I pulled in the Cold Grey 3 there. I might pull in a different one, and then for my darks I have got the black there. I've obviously got the dark indigo and that black cherry. I've also got the dark sepia. So we're going to map in our darks first of all, then some of our mid-tones just to fill the area, and then we'll just start to build on those. Okay, so you'll see here something new. My new camera, I've had to play with it, and I can do multi-camera, so be warned. I've managed to set this up. It might wobble a little bit over here because it's on a separate stand. This is just me playing, and I thought, oh, as it works, maybe this will be a good little addition to the videos. So I can add a third camera, which will maybe have me on it. But I'm not sure if I want that or not, because I pull some faces like when I'm drawing. So it should show you the pencils I'm pulling out. So obviously here I'm pulling out the Caput Mortem Violet first of all. And the first thing I'm going to do, I've zoomed in on the picture. I want to just come in and I'm just going to glaze over the whole area, because obviously we've embossed in those lines quite lightly. And I want to get lovely, I'm going to take that ring off, it makes a noise as I'm working. So I'm just using the side of the pencil. Remember to do your pressure test. And just come in here with a light pressure with your Caput Mortem Violet, because there is a lovely deep root of that Caput Mortem Violet most of the way through this piece. And all I want to do is just mark in, or just basically rub over these lines that I indented into the pastel mat earlier. Partly so that you can see them a little bit more clearly as well. Obviously you can use a transfer paper, just do it freehand if you want. I tend to use lines just so that you guys can kind of see what I'm doing where. And remember, we've zoomed in on here, so if you've got this on a big screen, this is only a small piece. I know I meant to measure it for you. Let me just grab my ruler, but my ruler has not got inches on it. It's only got centimetres, this one that I've got close by me. So centimetres wise, we are 9, and it should be 9 by 9. 9 by 9, so I'll check what that is in inches anyway. Like I say, I will have it in the description. So this is just to get a little bit of pigment down all over so that you can see those lines. And then what I'll do is I'll just come in over the darkest of the areas. And again, you've got the reference photo up at the side as well. Come in over the darker areas and just add some more of this in. This is all about mixing colours, laying colours, filling the tooth, building up your values as well, so your darkest of areas. Don't worry about your lightest of areas for now, just focus on those shapes of those darkest areas and the colours that you need to mix into them. So I've just done that, so now you can see those lines a little bit more clearly. So I'm going to come up now and just be a little bit more precise. We've got a super dark area up here. So first of all, I'm just going to come in, same pressure, just going to come in a little bit more with that Kaput Mortem Violet. And we need to take this darker, but the main undertone in here is quite violet-y, so we're going to bring in some dark indigo as well. Might have to mix in a little touch of black. I'll try dark sepia, but I don't think dark sepia is going to be dark enough. Again, pencil to the paper. I'm working on the side of the nib because my pencils were a little bit sharp. I don't want to come in too much with a sharp point and crush any of that tooth down, first of all. And also just do this little colour blocking stage. Sharpen up later on, and also please make sure you've done that pressure test if you haven't done it before. If this is your first tutorial with me, please understand the pressures that I'm using. So pencil, keep it down on the actual paper. Again, by using the side of the nib, it means that you get more pigment down faster. Just don't, whatever you do, do not be tempted to increase the pressure just to get the pigment down quicker. Just go over the area 3 or 4 times with the light pressure rather than going in really hard straight off. So you see I'm keeping the pencil on the paper, equal pressure, backwards and forwards, round and round, squiggles. First layer, just go down quite roughly. All we want to do, like I say, is just start to build up the pigment. So now I'm looking for all the little shapes and areas where there's a darker hint of the Kaput Mortem. It doesn't matter that that's just one line of Kaput Mortem in there. There's a hint of it. It doesn't matter if it spills out over. We'll soften over the top with some of our midtones and our lights later on. Okay, so in here, a lot of the time I think of it as like triangles as well. So we've got a very triangular point going up there, and we've also got a light triangle coming down over the top. So again, don't think of it as fur, just look at it as shapes, shadows, colours. And at the moment we're just going to focus on that one Kaput Mortem Violet all over. And you'll be amazed, to be honest, but if you put your darks in first, you'll be amazed at how quickly you'll start to get that impression of fur coming through. So then when you do go in with your lights, it's like a wow moment of like, ooh. Okay, so over to this side now, and again, same as that top area over here, it's lovely and dark, really rich. With the Kaput Mortem Violet. I have to say, Kaput Mortem Violet, Dark Indigo, even the Kaput Mortem to a degree are some of my favourite darks to use. And even though with this one I'm starting to pull in, I know with my tutorials previously I've tried to stick to just one brand or two. I want to free up a little bit more now. There's some beautiful tones and colours that have come out, obviously with the Derwent Lightfast that I'm loving. I have got so many brands of pencils here, but I won't use them all because it's not fair on you guys. But I also appreciate different parts of the world. You've got easier access to some pencils than others, like some of you guys in the US especially. I've got easier access and get them much cheaper than us here as well to Prismacolors. So I know I'm only pulling in one Prismacolor here. I'll try and make sure in future, there might be a variation of different brands that I'm using. So up here, up to that edge. I wish I'd take this off now. Maybe I'll pop in some tape. I do like working up to a taped off area. As you can see, I've just stopped the camera there and I've just gone in and taped off the area, as I was saying. I should have done that from the start. See my pencil just blunting up a little bit now as well. I've actually got a fault with my paper there, but I think we're going to manage to fill it. There's a line coming down through there. There's like a little bit of damage there, but that's fine. We should be able to work our way through that. Okay, so up to here now. Just still backwards and forwards, filling in those shapes. Doesn't matter if you go over the lines, we need to go over the lines. If you keep all the lines separate and stay within inside of them, they won't meet up, they won't then blend and transition nicely later on. Don't be afraid just to loosen up, hold your pencil further up. Don't hold it right down here and have control and be precise and have it angled like this. Prop it on its side, hold the pencil further up, have it blunt, and just backwards and forwards. Don't worry about it. Keep flicking your eyes backwards and forwards to that reference photo. Anywhere that you can see, it doesn't matter that there's chestnutty colours over the top, anywhere that you can see hints of the Kaput Molten Violet underneath, pop it in there. You might see more, like this is my little second sweep now. You might see more the second time you do this than you do the first. Like here, we've got this lovely flicky line coming down through here, lovely deep, which we're going to darken up with some dark indigo in a second, and some of that black cherry. I've got my daylight lamp up here, so it is probably going to lighten this area a lot more on the camera. And just don't be afraid that you're taking this too dark. Remember, our lights are not going to show up unless we've got darks underneath, darks and colours underneath to break them up. That should be sort of resembling fur already, and we're only literally just popping in our first go with our first pencil, the Kaput Molten Violet. Our first sweep of pencil. A sweep is what I refer to as a layer. It's just a term that I seem to start using, and that's what I mean. A sweep of pencil is me doing one sweep, top to bottom, with one pencil. So here, now glazing over further up over this curl and still bringing it down over this area where we've worked previously, which means I'm just adding more pigment there and there's less of the pigment up over the curl, and that will start helping with that transition as well. Okay, so next pencil I'm going to go in with is that Prismacolor, the Black Cherry. Get my reference photo back up. I'm scanning in between each stage as well, obviously for the written tutorial. So let's come in here. Same pressure again, no extra pressure. I'm going to glaze down a little bit further with this so I can see some of this lovely black cherry down through. This has got a hint of the purpley shades in there, the purple, the mauve, mauve, all of those purpley colours sit on the colour wheel where they, well, if you're doing any chestnut, brown fur, anything like that, they totally complement and will give you your brown and your chestnut furs so much zing by adding that in. So I'm taking it, lightest, let's say the same light pressure, I'm taking it up over some of this curl, but then down into those shadows as well. We just need to really darken up those shadows next, I think, so that we push that all back. But already I'm starting to see the tooth's beginning to fill, it's starting to smooth out a little bit. I know on screen it's not going to look quite like that because to the naked eye, remember, we're zoomed in on this camera. So to the naked eye, it looks a lot more filled in, let's say, than that zoom in on the camera. I'm just taking note of my pencils I'm using. So let's come in next with a dark indigo. Just to say, don't automatically go in straight away with a black. I'm just going to come in with a dark indigo first of all and see how dark that mixed with the Caput Mortem is going to take us. So I'm doing a mix of back and forth as well as lovely round squiggles. It's sort of like a really loose form of scumbling. Yeah, I'll tighten up. These first strokes are just going down to get the pigment in there. And then each layer we just refine and tighten up our application a little bit more. And we'll be coming over the top of all this with our glazing with some of our russets, some of those lovely chestnutty mid-tones. Let's darken up this outer edge here. Just keep looking at that reference. Try to follow the technique I'm showing you. Try not to follow exactly what I'm putting and where. You can, of course, you can if you want. That's absolutely fine. But try and just get a feel for this yourself. Looking at those colours. Remember, your image is going to look different on your screen. Remember, I did that video. I'll pop a link in up above of how you need to choose where you're using your reference from. So if you're going to use your tablet, find one image, get it on that single tablet, and work from that image start to finish. Don't flip between different screens, different devices. Same as if you're going to print it out and stick with it. I'm just using the printout version because, one, if you could see the setup here, I've got a camera above me on a boom, I've got another boom coming over with my phone for this second camera. They're all wired up. I've realised that the microphone on my new camera doesn't like my daylight lamp, so I've had to dig out another daylight lamp that plugs in. It's like a little portable one. So I just didn't want another electronic device here today, and to be honest, I don't need to be zooming in. I just want one flat image right next to where I'm working. Saves my eyes all that business of flicking too far from one device to the next, or to my, from what the reference to my drawing. Okay, you should see now, like I say, that's instantly push back the shadows. Push those values nice and deep. I should have got the value finder together, shouldn't I, so that we could have started work showing you how to use a value finder on these little test pieces. I'll get those lined up. I want to show you how you can create your own value finder as well, though, so they're all going to be individual videos that I'm showing you, and each one you pick and choose whether you want to use something or not. I don't use all of these tools, but I appreciate some of you might, so by showing you them and how to use them, hopefully gets you over that fear of not having the knowledge or not being sure which method to go down. You'll find the things that work best for you. Okay, so that's dark indigo. Just as a little tester, because I've got the Derwent blue violet here. I don't know how dark this is. I'm just going to try it. No, to me, there's not a lot of difference between. I don't know, it's going to take it a little bit darker. But no, we'll stick with our dark in now. We'll take that blue violet to one side as one that we might have used, but we're not going to. So I'm going to stop this now, just do another quick scan, and then we'll stop. I'm going to come in slightly darker on these darks, and then we'll put our Kaput Mortem, black cherry, and our dark indigo over the top again. So I'm going to grab, this is the dark sepia here. We're going to mix that with some of the black, and then we'll come in over the top and soften some of the areas back again with our repeating the previous process. So we use Kaput Mortem violet, some of our dark indigo, and a little touch of that black cherry. It's basically a case of mixing and blending all of these together. Remember what I say in colour pencils. We are artists, we are using pigment, but the pigment is in pencil form, obviously inside of our wooden casing. Now, artists that paint have a mixing palette. Off to one side, they squeeze all of their pigment into that palette and they mix up all of their colours there. They can do a certain amount of mixing depending on which type of medium they're using. So oils and that, so you can mix to a degree with the slow drying pigments actually on your chosen support. But most paints are mixed off to one side before being applied to the support. With us, we do all of our mixing and blending on the actual support itself. So on our pastel mat, we mix and blend. So this dark indigo is darkening up a little bit. Dark indigo? Dark sepia. Just write that down, dark sepia. Can't wait to come in over the top with the russet. And that's it. Some things only come with experience. I know what's coming next. I know in my head what's being laid down next. I know I've got my Kaput Mortem coming in next, which is much warmer version. I'll glaze over all of these blank areas with the kaput mortem, and then we'll be coming in with those mid-tones. And I know what's going to happen when it all mixes together. And that can only come with experience. And you guys are just different varying levels of experience to me. Some of you guys would have used other brands of pencils a lot more than me, especially if you do use Prismacolors, because it's something that I very, very rarely pick up. I know there's a lovely range of colours in them. I just don't know them. It's because I've had, here in Europe, I picked up the Faber-Castells first. I know those colours. I'm learning my Pablos. I've got all of the luminants. I don't tend to turn to the luminants very often, and now that I've got these lovely Derwent Lightfasts, they have gripped me. So you'll notice I am actually using this in the direction that the fur is. Let's say the sweeping line here, I've made sure from the off I am putting the pigment down in the direction that it needs to follow. Don't worry if it goes too dark, we're going to glaze over the top. It's what people worry about. Okay, so I'm going to come in now with the black, using the Polychromos black. I've got the pulled the Lightfast one out and I put that one away, and I've also got the Caran d'Ache black there as well. But again, I'm going to stick with the Polychromos. Keep it as simple as possible. Now I'm just going to place this in a few little sweeps. I don't want it everywhere, I just want to take a few little bits. All I'm doing, when you add in a touch of black, basically you're creating a shade if you're mixing it with colours. So you're making a darker shade of that colour, or those colours that you've got down already. If you add white, you make a tone. So we're making shades. So I'm glazing this again over all of that dark area up here in that corner, because we needed to take it extra dark. So we can just squint as well. Flick your eyes backwards and forwards from your reference photo. And this is where something like your value finder is going to come in really handy if you're struggling with your values. So squint at your reference photo. Put your reference photo right up against. Let me just do that. Let me just put my reference photo right up against there. See how dark that is? I know I've got a bit of reflection from the light here. Let me just fade out that light. But we want to take it super dark. Take my light down a step. There we go, I've taken the light off now. But we can see the pigment, sorry, the tubes of the paper still there. Excuse me. But that's how dark we want to take it. It's achieving it now, but we need to repeat it to make it extra, extra rich. It's lovely starting to come up nice and dark here in the centre, but we're going to glaze over it with our reds, remember, as well. So that's as simple as that. Just come up and squint and look to see where you need to increase that dark. Let me bring my light back up. Okay, so I increase all the way down through here. Don't want to put in too much. Black is quite heavy. It's just being used as a mixer.
Lovely. Okay, so now we're going to go back and repeat those first layers. So let me grab my Kaput Mortem Violet. Where have you gone? There have you gone. Just need to sharpen it a tiny bit, because you can see I've gone a little bit too blunt there, and I need to have enough pigment there just to do that whole next layer. I think, to be honest, we're not going to put in dark indigo now. We're just going to use our Kaput Mortem Violet, and then we'll switch up to Kaput Mortem, and then I want to get the russet in all over, so we filled in all of the paper with some pigment all over. So again, got it on its side, and this will soften that black. It will make it a lovely dark reddish violet tone of shadow in there now. But that has filled the tooth beautifully, so once we've done this area, you know, we don't need to really come back over it again. So again, I'm going to sweep over most of the paper now, but mainly over where we laid down that black. But we'll say the russet will come over the top as well. And I think I've got sienna there, which are going to come in over the top. That'll soften that black back even further. You'll see very soon everywhere that's got even the highlights will vanish. That's because that is not a pure highlight of just grey or just ivory or cream that's going to go in over that area. It's going in over the top of, say, Kaput Mortem. We need to get some of the purplish tones in here as well as those oranges that are going to come up next. Again, see, I'm still working quite quickly. Okay, so next we're going to switch over to, oh, we need to put in a little bit of that black cherry again. Let's have a look. Let's put in some of the black cherry just. Basically, seen, I noticed, I remember I used it on the first round that we put down, and it's disappeared. It's disappeared in the under the indigo and the Kaput Mortem Violet and the black. So I just want to put, whenever you see a colour vanish, pop it back in. Just a light glaze of it, absolutely fine. But if you see it disappear, pop it back in. As soon as you notice it's gone. And patience, patience, patience. I am itching to get the mid-tones in, the russets and the oranges, and of course up to the highlights. Try and be patient. So now I've got the Kaput Mortem, which is a lot warmer. Let me get the Kaput Mortem Violet out for you as well. So you see the Kaput Mortem Violet is very much a darker, real, like almost like bluish tone to it. And the Kaput Mortem is much warmer, much softer. Okay. So let's sweep some of this over the top of some of these areas that have not got any pigment down yet. And this will just soften the transitions from the Kaput Mortem Violet out, especially into these curls. Not worrying about being too precise with the curls yet, just going in the right direction. And you see it's all becoming a bit of a dark mass. That's what we want. Our lights will not show up over the top, remember, if we haven't got our darks in place. It's about trust. Trust me with what I'm saying. Trust your paper. Trust that that sanded texture, well, it's not really sanded, but just trust that that texture is going to enable you to work dark to light. This bit here is absolutely beautiful. I'm loving that. Once that's got a hint of russet over the top, that has created such a lovely warm deep reddish shadow through there. I think I might need to take that a tiny bit darker, but we'll wait until just at the end to do that. Again, I'm ignoring all the texture. We don't need to worry about any of that texture. And if you think as well, I've used that sienna pastel matte, which is quite orangey, so some of these fine lines, these fine flicks, we can do that with a knife at the end as well. So again, planning ahead, think about your colour of your support. How can that help you? Not only is it helping me with giving me a nice foundation of, or an orangey base to work on top of, it also means when I cut through with a knife later on, it will allow me to create some of those real fine flicky hair strands as well without you needing to use a pencil. Okay, so on to some fun now. Fine, you're going to move up to these lovely russety reds. So let me grab my russet. Got one here on the go. So this is Caran d'Ache Pablo. It's the burnt sienna, saying that. So I pulled in a nice new. Oh, that's the brown. Where's my russet? There it is. I thought I pulled in a new one. So we're going to go in with this one. Okay, so I grab my russet next. I'm going to go in with the brown probably as well. And we've also, of course, got this lovely ruby earth, so I'm going to have a play with that one. We've got some magenta to pop in as well. But let's just come in first of all with our, let me just try this ruby earth. I've got a feeling it might be a little bit too dark, but we might use it for some transitions later on. Okay, so we're going to come in with the russet next. So it's sanguine russet, it's the Caran d'Ache Pablo. And we're going to just start to glaze over the top. It might be a little bit too orangey actually, but we'll knock some of it back down with those caput mortems. And do you know what? This is coming out too orangey now. I think in the, I was doing this from the screen, this would be perfect, but this is going to need to mix with the brown and the caput mortem more, so we'll come in over the top again, but let's just get a layer of this in here. Actually, I'm thinking the sanguine in the Faber-Castell range is a slightly darker. I know what it is. It's because this is going down on the sienna pastel matte. It's changing the tone of it slightly, so it's making it more orangey because we've already got an orangey base. If we put this down onto a white or a grey base, it would be coming out more russety red. So that's where all of these things come into consideration. So again, if you're following this tutorial and using a different colour paper, you're going to be getting some different effects anyway if you're using the same pencils that I've recommended. So that's why I always say try and use them as a guide. In fact, I'm going to swap that one out. I'm going to switch straight over to the Venetian red. I'm going to swap into the Venetian red of the Faber-Castells, because in my image it's a much more pinky colour. So I will not jot down that we do use a touch of the russet, but more with the Venetian red. So again, keep working in the direction of that fur. Try and keep your strokes of your pencil same length as your fur as well. So here I'm just popping in some hints of the fur. So I'm lifting off. Tighten some of these up afterwards. And we'll transition the dark out into the light colour as well. It was worth popping in actually a touch of that russet because it is mixing now with this Venetian red as I'm popping it in. Venetian red's slightly better. We're going to use cinnamon as well than using something like medium flesh. But just be aware that the Lightfast rating is not brilliant. But this is for a tutorial, so I'm just teaching you technique and I've made you aware of that Lightfast rating. You'll see this all start to soften up now as it all meets up. We lose those initial lines that we had popped in there with our stylus that we indented the paper with. We debossed. I'm going to push this using the Venetian red out over some of our darks now. Yeah, it's all starting to meet up really nicely there. Hopefully you can see it on the screen as well. And this wouldn't be working so well if we hadn't gone in and done that lovely work at the beginning with getting all of our darks in. This isn't the final layers, by the way, we're still underpainting here. But hopefully you can see it's starting to come together nicely. It's a really nice little project this. I wish I was drawing the whole dog now. Keep thinking maybe I should open up and take on a few commissions again so that I have to draw some dogs, or maybe I should just draw my own dogs. I do miss drawing full portraits. So we'll line another dog tutorial up I think soon. As well as the donkey and the cow and the more cats, more wildlife. Got to finish that other fox as well. So much to do, never enough time. If you can hear any noise in the background, then it is my scanner whirring away because this is such a small little piece and because I want to make it into a written tutorial for you as well. So you've got some written instructions to follow. I was switching my scanner on and off and my computer had to go on and off. I'm finding I'm flicking between the two so quickly. I'm just going to leave it on, so you might hear my laptop and my scanner whirring away in the background, so I do apologise. Hopefully you might not. Yeah, definitely worth going in with that russet. In fact, I might pop a little bit more in now that I'm seeing this work with mixing and blending with this lovely Venetian red. Oh, I'm loving this. These are some of my favourite. I know I love drawing black fur, I guess, the most, but I am absolutely loving this. I can't wait to do the other versions of these chestnut tutorials. And you'll find that one will probably be quite orangey in comparison. We might not use all the same colours for each one, and that just goes to show the variations that you get between different types of chestnut fur. One fur is probably never really going to match another fur. I'm going backwards and forwards, down, left, and just placing all of that lovely pigment down. Lovely. And remember, we're still looking at undertones here. Don't worry about those lights. We're just smoothing out all of this lovely, lovely, lovely scrummy darks underneath. And the more work you do here, the less work you need to do with those highlights in a bit. So let me dim the light again for you, so that gives you a much truer idea of what's going on. You can see lovely, lovely darks throughout. Lovely to see the richness of the reds coming through now. So let's have a look. Bring this back up. The light is mainly for me to see what I'm doing, so I'll keep dropping it down for you so you can see the progress. Okay, so I'm going to bring in some. Let me just have a look at this lovely blue violet or the magenta. I've got a feeling it might be a mix of the two, but let's bring in some of the magenta as well. Let me just pop some of the blue violet in here, just along the edge of some of this curl down here. If you don't see it, you don't have to use it. I see it, so I'm going in with it. You see there how grainy that's gone. I need to get some more pigment in there. I've taken that shadow up way too far as well, so we need to soften that back. So I'll come in again with, I could put Mortem, a repeat of some of our previous layers, put Mortem Violet, a russet, and that Venetian Red. Okay, up here, just some little touches. I think I'll use that black cherry up there again, to be honest. Some touches just around here. So you could use the mauve, or you could use, I think it's a periwinkle blue in the Pablos range. Okay, so I'm going to switch out. I don't want any up here, a little tiny bit. I'll switch out now, I think, for the magenta. Actually, before I do that, let me just see if I can pull back some of that shadow here. Popping in a little bit more Venetian Red, and also just see if I can mix Venetian Red in with some of that blue, the blue violet. Now just get rid of that grainy little bit of tooth that was showing there, because we haven't really got the tooth showing too many places now. Blend that Venetian Red up over the top, just to make sure we're getting lovely smooth transitions from the darks to what will be our highlights. Okay, so that's the blue violet, and now the magenta. So I'm starting to be a little bit more precise about where I put down some of this now. I'm slowing it right down. Being a little bit, let's say, more particular about where I'm popping in. Still following the right direction. I'm lifting off just before I get to where that highlight is. Flicking eyes back and forth, popping in colours where I can see them. Yes, the magenta looks a little bit too bright, but we will soften it back by glazing over the top with, I need to put some darks up through there as well, with a russet, I could put Molten Violet. And our Venetian Red. But this is what, I mean, my fur is quite colourful anyway. You don't have to go quite as colourful. If this scares you, you don't have to go quite as colourful as this. So let me just pop some dark in there first of all. Let me grab my Put Molten Violet again and flick some of this back up here. Coming right at the end, possibly with our black, just to break up. I need to sharpen this up soon as well. So that we can start putting in much more precise, much more precision in our strokes. Some of those shadows have lightened up too much there, so we might need to darken those back out again. Okay, so in with our Venetian Red again. I'm starting to push down and lift like I would with creating fur now. So we are starting to look at texture now, as well as tonal value, colour, and placement. I'm going to come in with the cinnamon, I think, next, so it takes it up another. We're getting close to adding our lights. If we want to take it back down to dark, we can, and we might do. Gently all over. Normally I would as well when I'm working on a piece. I will take it from dark to light to dark to light. So I'm working with a bluntish pencil at the moment, which is giving me these nice thick strokes. But as soon as I want to start to add detail, then we'll start to come in with sharper pencils. That's what I mean by getting super sharp. And with each layer, like I say, we just refine it a little bit more. Refine, refine, refine. Slow it down a little bit. Get our placement a little bit more precise. And think about what happens when you add a light to this Venetian red and all of those colours that are there later on. Okay, so I'm going to come in with cinnamon next. This is the cinnamon. This is one of my ones that I use for sort of like, I call it a softener. I'm going to sharpen up a little bit as well. So I'm starting to be a little bit more precise yet again now. I'm putting in actual first strokes. And we'll pull the darks out over some of these highlights later on. This is why you don't go straight in with those highlights. You don't need to. Get all of your darks in, all of those colours in, and then when you start to add, this is still a bit of a mid-tone really, this is still a softener, what I use just before I come up to my highlights. So I use this and then we'll come back in afterwards with our, obviously our highlights, but then we'll darken our shadows back up again and start to pull it all together. So I'm going to come here all the way down this highlight. I'm going to push out towards that edge and also pull it up into the shadows on this side. I'm just going to drop the light down a tad myself. Now that I need to get this light, now that I've got it, we'll get another LED light, daylight lamp that I can position above where my camera is. And then the glare, because what's happening at the moment, because I've got it off to one side, as I'm using more of the Polychromos down through here. It's starting now to pick up on the sheen of the oil as it's going down. So all I'm starting to see from this angle is reflections, which isn't good. So cinnamon is doing its job of softening along this highlight. Not worried about it not being exact. So I'm trying to show you method, theory. This is what I call sort of like my push-pull. So I'll push the highlight out into the shadow, and then later on I'll pull the shadows back down, and then in between we have our midtones. And some people would think, oh, let's go in with a highlight, let's just go straight in there with a white. I haven't got a white in my palette today, so you've got so many, and by not rushing to get to the highlights as well, you've got so many choices of what to build up to use for your highlight. I'm probably going to pull in a touch of ivory. I've got a couple of greys. I've got an ash grey and a light beige. Even though it's called beige, it still looks like grey. So let me just get some of this little touch up underneath. And I've also got light flesh there as well. Because light flesh is the next one up really from your cinnamon. So I'm not thinking, I haven't thought about this at all as being fur. I'm just looking at the reference photo. If the thought of drawing fur freaks you out completely, yeah, just look at the shapes, shadows, colours. Just focus on that, that's all I'm doing. I'm just looking at one shape at a time. Where does it correspond with the shape next door? Is it the right colour? Is it the right value? Just don't freak out. And put pressure on yourself of like, oh my god, it's fur, I've got to make it look like fur. It's like, no, it will start to look like fur. You just draw what you see and it will all come together. I'm not thinking about that flicky fur over the top there yet. I'm still looking. I need, like I say, I need to sharpen this up before I come in with any more pressure and put too many more lines in. But you can see already here I'm losing some of the nice reddish orange. But we'll just, as we notice we lose it, we'll just come back in and replace it. So refine, refine, refine. Don't try and get everything done in one layer. Don't put that pressure on yourself. It's much better. Patience, and it will all come together. Okay, so I've picked up my Venetian red. You'll notice as well that I've, apart from one, I've missed my put Molten Violet. I've gone along and I've just sharpened up all my pencils there. So I'm probably going to come in, I've got the russet there as well, and I want to come in with some of the burnt sienna. So that's the Pablo burnt sienna. So I'm going to come in first of all. So in my hand I've got my lights now, or a couple of my lights. Maybe I'll lift out all of my lights. So I've gone for the two Pablos I've got are the light beige and the cream. Polychromos I've got the light flesh. And then I picked up again the Venetian red and in the Polychromos, and also the burnt sienna in the Pablo. In fact, I'm going to pick up as well the russet. So we're going to just do a bit of a colour match now. So let's just, anywhere that I've lost some, I'm just coming in with the burnt sienna first of all and see how reddish this pulls things in for me. I need a nice reddish tone in here somewhere. I don't seem to be finding it with russet because of the colour of the paper. So I'm going to use this burnt sienna as a way of just breaking up some of these clumps. I need to get some of that purpley black grape back in up here. I've lost that as well. And we'll soften this going up into the shadows in a bit as well. Oh, I've knocked the camera. I've got to apologise because this new camera is not small, and I've got it upside down and it's right in front of my head here. see if I can get a boom on the ceiling that's nice and high up, and then I worry that maybe I'm leaning over too far. I'm putting my head in front of the camera and I'm not realising. So then I need to get another monitor lined up as well. It's just all a little bit technical. But anyway, this is nice. So I was just pulling some of that shadow back out again, and we need to pop some of that shadow back in. So I'm just using this burnt sienna just now to pull some of that shadow transition out. Just keep an eye on the directions as well. So even me, I'm going to lay my pencil down, and that needs to be going in that direction. I've lost some of that purpley colour down here as well. So again, it's me a case now of tweaking, coming in and tweaking. Anywhere we've lost some shadow, we've topped in some more tone. Anywhere we've lost some colour, we'll pop that back in as well. So this is all about the transitions. This burnt sienna is a lovely transition from the dark into that lovely cinnamon Venetian-y reddy tones that we've got down. So it's breaking this up really nicely. I've lost some of the red, so I need to get some red back in there. This isn't too bad actually, this is quite a nice reddish brownish tone. And I know that you're itching to get your lights down. So we'll do that in a second, and you'll see this start to really spring to life, but only because of all that lovely foundation work that we did earlier on. I know some people teach many less layers than this. You can mix it up with different pencils to get there quicker. Might I say, what's the rush? What's it matter if someone says, oh, I can show you how to do it quicker than that, I can show you how to do it with less layers. This hasn't taken that many layers, hasn't taken that much time. I'm really loving the effect that it's giving, so I will take whatever time is needed to create in a way to give the effects that I like the best. If you prefer someone else's effect, absolutely fine. We're all different, and that's what makes us all individual artists. So that's softening up really nicely along there. I'll say we'll come in with our lights in a second. This is running out of sharpness now as well. Okay, so that's our burnt sienna. Here's our russet, so let's push some of our oranges back through. Not too much. A little bit up on those transitions there, but only on the top side. We want the mauvey purple on the lower side of that curl. Okay. Right, I'm going to go in now with, let's have a look, let's have a look at the grey first. I'm going to come in with the grey first of all, or the light beige, sorry. And we're going to just start to map in, you'll be pleased to know, some of that highlight. So I was looking at, I'm going to use a touch of light flash, I think this light beige is going to capture a lot of it. So I'm looking for the shapes again, and we can break them up afterwards. So it's where the highlight hits this spot, and we're going to soften it out each direction with Venetian red. So I've also got my cream to hand. Let's see how much we get in using this light beige first of all. Up here, I would turn the paper around to do this, but I'm just going to flick some of that down. Again, I think up here we'll soften this with the Venetian red, possibly a touch of the light flesh. But you can see here all those layers if anyone was worried about, oh, we'll never get our lights down over our top of our darks. Well, they're going down really easily. I'm not hardly using any pressure there. Just really look at where the light is just catching those tips. Remember, it doesn't have to be exact to the photo. Come in there with the light flesh. In fact, let me do it now whilst I've got the light flesh in my hand. And just pulling some of those highlights of the light beige down and away using the light flesh. Okay, let's pop the next chunk in. Hopefully on the camera you're seeing this coming together now. Really putting the highlights down is sort of like the icing on cake. I mean, we're going to knock all this back again in a second where we work and soften some of these highlights, pulling them up into the shadows, pulling them away. But you can start to see the effect that this is going to give. I hope. So if you want to get every first stroke exact, absolutely fine. I don't, to be honest. Perfectly honest with you. Because that's just like recreating the photo. You've got your own natural the way that you move the pencil, the way that you interpret something. So just make sure you don't forget that and try and make it all too perfect. I think if you try and make it too perfect, it becomes really flat and really contrived. And sort of less interesting. Yours just sort of then just looks like anybody else's. So again, this is pretty close. Remember, this still isn't the end result here. I'm just moving between that light beige, my light flesh, and I'll bring in the Venetian red again in a second to blend them all out. I probably would have maybe used a different grey up around this area as well, but it's okay. I'll use a bit of cream or ivory here. Again, we need to come back in there with our russet. So let's have a look what we're going to use here for highlights. Let's lift this area first with the light beige. Get the brightest highlight first, and then I'm looking at the softer ones. Okay, so in with the light flash. Doesn't matter if these are going too light, I'm going to go back in, I'm going to knock some of them back, especially where they need to transition. That's the joy of pastel matte, you can just keep correcting. But you don't want to make your pencil stop too short of where you want it, your highlights start to be. So this will look quite, on screen I'm guessing this will look quite harsh at the moment, these highlights, which is not the desired effect that we're after. Okay. Okay, so now it's looking a little bit harsh, so we need to go back in with all of our colours again now and transition it all. I'm going to add in a touch before I do so in a couple of places of, whoopsie, I knocked a wire. Just using the cream just to strengthen a couple of the highlights in places. Okay, right, so I'm actually going to grab the Ruby Earth now from the Derwent Lightfast. You don't have to, but I just want to inject a touch of red that I don't feel I'm getting. Let me just try this anyway. Bear with me. And then I'll come in over the top with some of the russet. That is nice, actually. And all I'm doing is just, I'm leaving some of the highlight there, but we're just softening the edges, so it's transitioning, and we need to cut in between them as well and get some of our dark shadow back in, and again some of the black cherry that we lost. Like here, that's just too harsh. Want a hint of it. We want to soften either side of those lines. That's much better. Looking a bit more closely now, everything I'm putting down. I'm coming over the top of this red with the russety orange in a second. Now that there's more layers down as well, the russet should be going on. More russety. That was a technical term, more russety. So I keep knocking the wire, holding the second camera there. Okay, let's come in here now. This is softened quite nicely anyway, so you can see where that fur is coming out from the darkness. It's lovely deep red in there. We'll darken some of this up again, remember? It's much more purpley underneath that curl. Just injecting a little bit of red down here. Bring some of our Venetian red back in as well. Hopefully you can see it's refining more now. Okay, right, let's get some of those darks back in again. So some of this black, hints of this black cherry up through here again. So even slower now with my strokes, even more precise, even though I'm not going for complete accuracy. We're being as precise as we choose. Oh, I do love this. This is going to have to go into my drawer with all my pencils that I love using. And maybe I'll have to have a look at the Prismacolors and see which other ones I really like. But that one is a keeper. Really concentrate now, and this is why I don't think I'll ever set up a third camera on me, because I know that I'm really sort of frowning and pursing my lips, and it's not a pretty sight. You don't want to see my face as I'm drawing, you just want to see the pencils. Oh, sorry, I know I'm knocking that camera. Okie dokie, so that's black cherry again. Keeping note of my pencils makes a change for me. So now let's grab, we want burnt sienna, what do we want? We want a little bit of the orange back in again. So let's see if this russet is going to behave for us. Still a little bit too orangey. It's not too bad. A little bit brown. I don't use the brown. Okay, so the brown helps. Back with our Venetian red again. That's all transitioning really nicely there. So I need to get in some dark again. So I'm going to come in first with my Caput Mortem Violet. Brown. Just keeping track of what I'm using. No, it's going to have to be black. I'm going to have to come in. And also I just need a little touch of grey on a couple of strands here. And we'll come in right at the end and add some of those real flicky touches as well. So let's get these darks in first of all. So I need to cut back in around some of these shapes where we've glazed over the areas and lost some of our darkest shadows. So I'm just going to work carefully around some of these and put in black, but I'm going to come over the top with the Caput Mortem Violet just to soften that a little bit. Okay, so up around here as well. And I know, like I say, even as I'm doing this, that some of these shapes aren't exact, but I'm not stressing. So hopefully you won't be stressing. It's just, hopefully it comes across to you that you don't have to stress. It doesn't have to be exact. There was a time when I'd be freaking out going, oh my god, it's got to be perfect. I've missed out that individual hair. It's like, that's crazy. Don't put that pressure on yourself. You don't need to. If I took the reference photo away in a second, no one else would have any idea. Believe me, it's taken me a lot of years to get to that point where I'm not worried. You have to get the main features right on a commission. You have to make sure you're getting the right type of fur created. But as long as it's pretty much all balance, it's all a balance of all of the things, you know, the likeness, the texture, the colour, the character, so many things that are dependent. It's not just one thing, it's not just about an exact copy of a photo, because that, like I say, will just come across and it'll just make your piece look really flat. So this is just sinking those shadows back again. And really now, this is just final tweaks. You could repeat all of this. I probably would. But for this demo, we don't need to take this any further. I'm just going to do some final tweaks, like I say, of shadows and colours before a final scan. I apologise as well if you hear a resident fly every now and again, because We live right next to fields. I've got stream, and it's just been raining today as well, so we do get the occasional fly coming in, and they always choose to come in to my studio when I'm filming, when I'm drawing, just, I swear, to annoy me. And they always seem to buzz just loud enough. I think that's going to get picked up on the camera, but it's not a lot I can do apart from keep putting my pencils down to chase it away. So if you can hear a fly, maybe we should give him a name. Flyus and Annoyimus. Buzzimus. I don't know. See, I need to get to the end of this drawing. I'm losing it. Losing the plot rapidly. Okay, so everywhere I've just done that black, I need to come in now and soften with my Caput Mortem Violet. So again, we've got some highlights in, rather than coming in with more highlights. Let our darks sinking away work for us more. It's easy to pop in highlights and make something pop forwards, but it's much more dramatic if you don't rely on the highlights and you literally sink everything away into the shadows instead. It makes the highlights and all the form pop forward, and that is why I use the method of putting in your darks and your midtones and adjusting them until you've got pretty much most of the form there. Your highlights are just a bit of a added bonus, really. We need some of that orangey again. I'm just debating where to pull in the hazel. Let me try the hazel. Or whether we can get it with the Venetian red. I think Venetian red. So ignore the hazel. Let's come in again with the Venetian red. And our grey, let's push some of this away into the highlights, into the midtones. And like I say, you can just keep repeating this process as much as you, or as many times, or as few times if you like. I'd come back in here probably with a cinnamon. But this is supposed to be a quick fur study. It's not supposed to be every single minute detail. So I'm adding some texture in around there now. So alternate between this light beige, to bring in some texture down here. Again, you can take away your reference photo at the end as well. If you want to just make this some of these decisions by eye, where you balance things up, that's perfectly fine, and quite often I do that. But for me, as much as if this was on a full portrait, I would probably keep going in, keep going in, keep going in. For this first study, I do believe we might nearly be there. So I'm just going to softened my gaze a little bit now as well, so I know I keep knocking that again as I come down to this bottom corner. So I've blurred my gaze a little bit here as well, where I'm not worried too much. I don't want to worry too much about the detail. Let me grab my, I could put more to that. And also my russets. Doing a bit of balancing by eye now. So I'm rotating between the Venetian red, the russet, I could put molten violet, and that light beige for those highlights in through there. But to be honest, apart from get the flicky lines going down from here, I see still this. I'm going to worry really about, will these lines go in or not? They'll go in fine. Let's soften them back a bit now. few little random hairs. Just add to the effect. Soften them back out. Just breaks up that texture a little bit. Pushing these last strokes in. I think one last thing I'm going to do is just go back in once more with my new favouriteest pencil, which is that Prismacolor Black Cherry. Again, you can brighten highlights there, you can add a bit more red through there. Entirely up to you. I can't wait actually to see your versions. A little bit more of this lovely black cherry just up through there. I think maybe one touch. So you can just keep going. I need to stop. A little bit more of the cinnamon. I just need to take that a little bit darker here. I think we are there. Like I say, just keep working this, but that was the main point of the tutorial. So I'll just keep going keep going, and I don't want to ruin this now. We've got the effect that we want. Hopefully you followed the process quite easily, and we actually managed to thin down the amount of pencils that we used on that. It wasn't too bad. And you could use less, like I say, and you probably use slightly different ones as well. So there we go. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this one. There will be a written tutorial alongside this one, and like I say, we've got a couple more chestnut fur ones to do. We just drop the light down, so that's without the light, that's with the light, and that's with full light. But I'll scan anyway, so you can see the true colours. Okay, so if you enjoyed watching it, please do give the video a thumbs up on YouTube. If you haven't already subscribed on YouTube, please just hit the button on there. It just takes a second to do. Really helps my viewing figures. And I look forward to seeing you on another tutorial soon.